Hello, all you wonderful fools. It's time for the Mizzah Tee Show.
All aboard!
Here we go, let's start the show. Hosted by Mizzah Tee. Nintendo video games are the favorite ones for me. News and reviews, some gameplay too. Battling drones is what I do. M-I-Z-Z-A-H is the show by Mizzah Tee. It's the show by Mizzah Tee. FOOS. Hey fools, Mizzah Tee here, hitting you up with an analysis video of sorts. I don't really do these kinds of videos, as most of my analysis is sprinkled throughout my tea time commentaries. But I felt that this has to be addressed, as I've seen numerous commenters and commentators reference the perspective I'm about to discuss. I guess you could call this a tease analysis. Fools. Shout out to my Player Essence brethren, Nintendo, the Zen Gamer. He has a series on his channel called Z's Analysis, which is in some part inspiration for this video. So Mizzah Tee will try to be as poignant and succinct as the king of logic. Make sure you go subscribe to him, as well as my other Player Essence partners, if you haven't already. Links below, as always, fools. So let's talk about the subject at hand. As the title says, Gamecube proves anti-Nintendo bias. Now, it's no secret that when Nintendo dominated the console market, they ruled with an iron fist. Those were the days that third party had to cater to the console manufacturer and adhere to their rules if they wanted to sell their games. PCs were in their infancy and not yet a viable enough market for most third parties to reach a mainstream audience. Nintendo was the video game market leader, and they knew it. The licensing fees third parties had to pay and the rules that they had to adhere to pass Nintendo's strict quality controls were tough. So while the Sega Master System didn't catch on, Sega's second console, the Genesis, gave the giant Nintendo some stiff competition. It released in North America in 1989, roughly 2 years ahead of the Super Nintendo's release. And it came with a great marketing strategy as well, touting the merits of 16-bit, as well as effectively painting Nintendo games as slow, not cool, and behind the times. Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Remember that, fools? Third parties found a viable option to sell their games with lower licensing fees and rules than what Nintendo had. Sega Genesis received excellent third-party support, along with its potent first-party games. Nintendo started to sweat, which led to faulty deals with electronics companies trying to get into the video game market, like Philips, Panasonic, and yes, Sony. But Nintendo's Super FX chip gave the Super Nintendo a boost, showing that it was actually the Genesis that could not do what Nintendo does. Showcase games like Star Fox, F-Zero, Mario Kart, and the groundbreaking Donkey Kong Country series proved that the Super Nintendo had much longer legs. And Super Nintendo games have much better audio thanks to its Sony-developed sound chip. Nintendo eked out a victory over Sega at the end of the 16-bit era, but the writing was on the proverbial wall. The giant Nintendo was vulnerable, and Sony seized the opportunity. The Sega Saturn's launch was botched. The system was designed with 2D games in mind and was hard to program for. And while the Nintendo 64 was designed with 3D games in mind, it was severely handicapped by its storage medium, as Nintendo stuck with the expensive proprietary cartridges. Sony came in with the easy-to-program for a 3D console with low licensing fees, cheap-to-produce CD-ROM storage medium, and not nearly as strict rules, and gave third parties an escape from Nintendo's iron fist. Nintendo's mistakes and business practices had finally caught up with them. But then we come to the Gamecube, the console that should have returned Nintendo to dominance. Undeniably more powerful than the PlayStation 2, easily proved by the Metroid Prime games, Resident Evil 4, and even a launch title in Rogue Squadron 2 that to this day looks better than anything in all of PlayStation 2's library. Cheap licensing fees comparable to Sony and Microsoft, and a cheap, easy to produce disc format. So why didn't third parties return in droves? What's the excuse? Some fools say that it was the Gamecube's disc size that hurt it. And Mizzah Tee says that's a bunch of bullshit. Every disc-based console has games with multiple discs, from Final Fantasy games on the PlayStation 1, Metal Gear Solid 3, Subsistence on PlayStation 2, to the Mass Effect series on Xbox 360. And there were multiple games on Gamecube that used multiple discs, like Resident Evil, Bates and Kaitos, and yes, Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. Besides, multiple disc games were pretty routine at the time, even on PC. And Nintendo's internal designers have proved to be masters of compression technology. Save for a couple of 100 megabytes, Super Mario 3D World could fit on a GameCube disc today. Resident Evil 2 fit on an N64 cart, complete with all the features and all full motion videos. So storage medium was no excuse. Most games during the 6th gen rarely even use all the space of a DVD outside of expansive RPGs. And even still, like I said, multi-disc games were normal and no big deal. The GameCube proved the anti-Nintendo bias exquisitely. And now, we're getting more excuses with the Wii U. They say Wii U ain't powerful enough for cross-platform ports. And I also say that's bullshit too. Call of Duty got downscaled from the HD twins to be put on Wii. Enough said. And we all know the graphical difference between Xbox One and the Wii U is nowhere near the difference between Xbox 360 and the original Wii. Case closed. That is, unless you can give me a better reason why the GameCube didn't get the third-party support the other consoles did. Because the disc size handicap has been thoroughly disproven here. But you're going to have to rebut Mizzah Tee with facts, not fanboy speculation, also known as damage control. Links to articles supporting my analysis are below. So there it is, fools. As I said, the industry's by and large dismissal of the GameCube, one of Nintendo's and the gaming industry's most exquisite and sophisticated pieces of tech for its time, proves that it didn't matter the power of Nintendo's console. The industry decided it didn't want Nintendo to be the market leader. Hell, even when it was the market leader, again with the Wii, the industry pretended and acted as if it didn't happen. They changed the rules on how you win the console race and downplayed the Wii as a gimmicky fad, even though over 70 third-party games sold 1 million or more units. The GameCube proved to Mizzah Tee, as a Nintendo fan especially, that Nintendo would never again be allowed to be the market leader because the industry has changed to where third parties now dictate and control the hardware manufacturers. They did the flippity flop shit. They claimed that they finally hit a wall with the 7th gen and the dated technology was thwarting their creativity. So I say to the third parties now, you got what you wanted. You're now the masters of this industry. You're now the gatekeepers. You got what you wanted. Now, what will be your excuse? Hurry up and tell us gamers, cause you might not be in business tomorrow, fools. Oh yeah, one more thing. Play Nintendo, fools.